Hey guys, it's Adam. I want to take a moment and personally thank you for listening to our shows, for downloading our shows, and for sharing them with your friends. With your guys' support, we just moved the Twisted 10 into the threshold of the top 100 comedy shows in iTunes. It made it to number 99, granted, just barely crept in there. However, that's still monumental for us. Out of the tens of thousands of podcasts that are out there, that's one of the most difficult categories to breach into. Thank you very, very much for helping us to get there. If you haven't already done so, please go give us a 5-star rating and give us a review, a short little 1-line, 2-line review, letting us know that you enjoy the show. iTunes reviews are like podcast currency. It legitifies the show, it allows us to get better guests, and it allows our sponsors to really see that we're reaching the listeners that are out there. If you haven't done so yet, please go do it. We would greatly appreciate it. We've got a ton on the horizon from Dichotomy Media, a lot more on our YouTube channel, more Get Out Penny cartoons, all sorts of stuff. So please help us by giving us that 5-star rating and a little review. Thank you very much and enjoy the show.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to The Twisted 10, bringing you original and unique host-created top 10 lists, recorded live in world-famous Cocoa Beach, Florida, with hosts Tack Van Sickle, Adam Poston, Jay Alvarez, and me, Andrea Joy.
Welcome to another episode of The Twisted 10. I am Adam. I am not your host this week, and the cat's in Tack's chair, so he's out tonight. Ironically, Jay, he's at SpaceX, either launching or scrubbing. I don't know, because it's supposed to be going like right now, the next SpaceX rocket.
I think if it's Tack, he's probably scrubbing.
Yeah, you're probably right. Good point. But yeah, no Tack tonight. Sitting over on the Lady Chase.
Hi, I'm Andrea Joy, and I am not your host.
Oh, Jay.
Yeah, and I'm Jay Alvarez, still constantly making fun of Tack for scrubbing launches. Also not hosting.
Uh-oh.
But we have a, it looks like we have a moving picture on the computer screen.
We have a very handsome gentleman up on our screen.
Oh, it's another moving picture show.
In studio. I'd like to introduce him, and I'm going to tell a little story here in just a few minutes before we get into his Twisted 10. However, we've got the host and head of content of Pod to Pod. And, you know, reading, I could literally spend 15 minutes reading your little bio on Facebook because, dude, you've done a ton of stuff.
So wait, Pod to Pod, is this where like a pod person stops, gets into another pod person? Is this like an invasion of the pod people type of thing? Because I would love it if that was the case.
It's a new Elon Musk project.
Yes.
Also, he does social media at the Jewish Federation of Southern New Jersey, from the New Jersey area, Mr. Mathew Passy.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the Twisted 10, and sorry that Tack is not here, but good to be with all of you fine people. I've been a big fan of the show, and I really wanted to be with the whole group of you.
I know. Well, you
also,
know, Tack
no interns this week.
Yeah, no, we don't have any this week. We've got nothing. It's just the three of us in studio. And Tack, you know, Tack's got this whole, you know, SpaceX thing he's doing. I mean, I guess, you know, this podcast doesn't pay the bills for him, so I guess he's got to make his money somehow.
Wait, because SpaceX is owned by Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Is Tack a pod person going pod to pod?
Dun, dun, dun.
What you don't know is Tack is actually on his way to Mars right now.
Damn it.
Is pod to pod like human centipede? Pod
No,
to
but I
pod,
want it to be
pod.
now.
Well, we'll get into that in just a minute because, Matthew, we want you to tell our listeners all about that. But here's how Matthew and I met. So this is a cool little story. We're both
how cute.
We're members of the Podcast Discovery Center, plus a couple of other miscellaneous podcast groups that are out there.
PDC.
But Podcast Discovery Center, Anthony Hayes, Scott Doucette, those guys are kind of the leaders of that. And I'm one of their top 50 contributors of like helping with content on the PDC. So giving tips and pointers and, you know, just whatever. I don't really spam that group, really. With our episodes, I just share information with other hosts. So marketing materials or how to drum up business or how, editing tricks, like some of the little behind the scenes post work that I do in here for our episodes. That's what that group is built for. And it's got like 1,400 members. It's a pretty big Facebook group. Well, I pushed the limits of the rules of the PDC a little bit with a post. Now, I wasn't spamming, but what I was willing to do with the members of the PDC, with other podcast hosts, was trade reviews. So basically, you listen to our show and give us a 5-star review, and then I'll go on your show, listen to your show, and give you a 5-star review. So basically just a trading of reviews. And this is common in most podcast arenas. And I didn't think that it broke any of the rules. And I talked to Anthony a little bit about it as well, and he didn't either. However, it got a lot of good positive feedback, and then some guy comes in there and he goes, Adam, listen. He goes, it's really cool what you're doing and all, but kind of skirting the rules of what the PDC should be used for. And then I had a couple of my friends that are on there fired back at, and it was Mathew actually. They fired back at him right away and said, leave him alone. He's just, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But don't come on the thread and be negative. And then I offended Mathew before knowing him. I said, look, he approached it, maturely and positively and argued with
That doesn't sound like me.
This is the down dirty, bottomless son of a bitch that you were talking about. I remember that.
Wait a minute. What? No, that's not what I
remember
said.
that. No. I remember specifically. I think you referred to him as a C-bomb. I won't say that on our show. Rhymes with bunt. But yeah, no. Hi. Nice to meet you, motherless bastard. I got it now.
He's full of hot air, Matthew. You know that, listening to enough Jay. But anyway, no, Matthew came in and debated me back and forth a little bit. And believe it or not, I'm a big enough boy to admit when I'm wrong, especially when I've been convinced of it in a good debate. And I changed my stance. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I talked to the leaders of the group and said, hey, if you guys want me to pull this down, we can, or we can leave this post up kind of as a little lesson learned for other people who are wanting to spam the group, even though that wasn't spam. But so that's how I met Matthew. And then he and I got talking back and forth, and turns out I got a 5-star review out of Matthew anyway.
Yeah, it
so
was.
I win, right? Is that?
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was the damnedest thing because I was, I'd been in plenty of other Facebook groups where it's like, yeah, it's really not a great thing to do. Trading reviews, like you want genuine, real fans to review your show. And sure enough, we had this, very mature, healthy discussion. And you told me about the concept of the show, and I was like, that is actually really a creative concept. I haven't heard of anybody doing that. I'm going to check it out. And I went back to that thread where we had this argument, and I wrote back to her. I was like, God damn it, people. I just had to give a 5-star review and posted a screenshot of it.
Yes.
And yeah, I really did fall in love with the show right away. What you guys are doing is a lot of fun. It's super creative. I enjoy listening all the time. I'm so glad to be on here, and I really do tell everyone, podcast fans around to check it out. I think it's a great concept.
We appreciate that. We also appreciate you using us as one of your top 3 podcasts in the article that you were interviewed for. I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me right now, but plug that a little bit because the listeners would be kind of interested to hear that because it's a good article, number one, but it also has a couple of cool things said about us in there, which was kind of neat.
So just to sort of explain why I do all this stuff in podcasting, Pod to Pod is a go-to resource for all things podcasting. We post a lot of news articles. We've got a directory of resources. I do a podcast on there where I interview, different folks who are offering up services and things that are going to help podcast producers like yourselves. So one of the folks who I did talk to is this guy, Kurt, who started toppodcast.com, which is this platform that helps people come in and easily find the best podcasts out there, all the categories, top 200 from iTunes. He has all these different other features in there to make it so that you can really find new and cool podcasts. And so I got asked to be one of his podfluencers. And as part of that, one of the things that he asked you to do is list your top 3 favorite podcasts that you're listening to right now. And sure enough, the Twisted 10 was one of my top 3, which is ironic that I could only do 3, and then I had to bring up the Twisted 10, which is a top 10 list. I will also say, if I had to redo that list now, thanks to you guys and to Andrea's boyfriend, Dan Cummins, I am now a huge sucker. I am a time sucker now after hearing him on the show.
You may not be able to, I don't know if you can see it back here, somewhere about where my hand is.
I see the shirt up on the wall, yeah.
He came in studio with us on Living Podcariously. He was sitting basically where we see you would be where Dan Cummins' head was because he was in a chair right there in front of the TV. Dude, that was a blast of a show to have him on too. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
And
oddly enough,
unfortunately-
that shirt actually is made out of unicorn foreskin. I thought it was only a joke, but no, it's legit.
220%. Really fine stuff.
No, yeah, he's an awesome dude. Dan Cummins is one of those guys that, yes, he's got that celebrity status, but he's still, he's down here on our level. He knows that pressing the flesh with, interesting people that he finds around the U.S. and around the world really is what's going to make his product and his brand grow, and he's doing it. So you'll hear him on a ton of other podcasts too. In fact, he's going to be on an episode of Blazing Caribous, as a simple little plug for them, but their Trivia Geeks show. He's going to be guesting on there. He was on the Burn It Down show here in Merritt Island as well. He was on our buddy Ray Brito show for Gallows Humor, and obviously Tom and Dan out in Orlando, who are the big dogs here in Central Florida, and really the inspiration for why we started podcasting originally. He's been on all these shows. He's just an awesome dude.
Yeah, I mean, if you could introduce me to him, I think you'd be a great person to talk to for Pod to Pod, because, I mean, his content is fantastic. He goes really deep dive into those topics, but a lot of the features of his podcast, the way he brings out bonus episodes for getting a certain number of reviews, the way he really engages with the community and brings up all those updates. I mean, there's a ton of things that podcasters can learn from the way he has his show structured. He's a really, really smart guy.
Done. If I forget, because my memory is horrible, if you've listened to our shows, you should know that my memory is like Alzheimer's set in early. Remind me after the show, and I'll send an email to Dan and CC you and just do that introduction, and he responds super fast. So he'll probably get back to you in the next couple of days, and you guys can schedule something either over the internet with an interview with him, or it depends on when he's going to be in an area out there near you. He could probably just come in your studio.
Oh, Adam, before I forget, would you email Dan Cummins for me?
Yes. Are you doing anything else that you want to plug as far as like the Jewish Federation stuff or any of the other stuff that I see on your Facebook page?
No, so the Jewish Federation, part-time job, just doing some digital marketing, social media for them. If you're local to the community, obviously, it would be good for you to check it out. But for the folks listening, the big thing is Pod to Pod, podtopod.com. And then I myself do a lot of podcast production, consulting, coaching, and advertising work at thepodcastconsultant.com. That's sort of why I troll those Facebook groups and pick on people like Adam when I have to.
One of the biggest things that I've been asked, and we're rookies in the industry. We do what works for our shows. I mean, we can always improve on that, but what we do seems to work for us. It won't necessarily work for other podcasts that are out there, but I never hide our numbers, our sponsor costs, our listens, all of that. I'm open to talk and share and freely give because it helps other folks grow as well. I was on a thread that I had 41 people hit me up and ask me for our marketing package, what we send to our sponsors to give an idea what they can create for their shows. So I'll shoot you a link to that one too. That might benefit you a little bit as well. Is that an area where you might be able to help somebody? Because it seems the biggest question that I get is, how do you monetize your show? That seems to be the number one question that I get. And I'm not a consultant. I'm another podcaster, just like anybody else out there.
No, I mean, you're a great person to ask because I think you guys have done a great job in marketing your show. You've developed some amazing relationships with Village Idiot and some other local establishments that you hear in the advertisements that are going on. You engage with your community by bringing people onto the show. But that's something absolutely that I can talk to podcasters about, and something that, that's one of those things that I do when I jump into a Facebook group. Somebody asks, how do I do this? How do I grow my show? I mean, the first and foremost, the best way to grow your show, just put out quality content that you care about and do something unique and interesting. That's always going to be the best way to grow your show, and just enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, there's no reason for anybody else to enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. For the listeners that are new to the Twisted 10, especially those that are coming over from Matthew's house, the Twisted 10 is a unique top 10 list podcast. We do it weekly. Either one of the normal hosts, myself, Tack, Andrea, or Jay, will bring you a unique top 10 list.
No, I'm never doing one again.
Never again?
Never
You're
again.
Is that still a thing we're doing? Hold on.
She's next on the internal hosts list. Or we have a guest, like in this case with Mr. Mathew Passy, that will be doing a top 10 list. The lists can be about anything. It does not have to stick to any structure, any format other than 10 to 1. That's about the only format you have to follow. We've had podcasts on sexual fetishes. We've had podcasts on world's, what are the disasters that could potentially happen, like extinction events. We've had, you name it. Like my favorite, still to this day, is the top 10 best and worst infomercial products. That was one
I
of my
think I
absolute
just
favorite.
threw away the pages from that today.
Really?
Oh, that's funny because that's partially the inspiration for why I did this list.
Really? Yes.
That's really funny you say that.
But yeah, in this case, the guest host can take over the entire show. During your show, plug anything you want. That's how it works. And the only rule is that you cannot steal somebody else's top 10 list. You have to make it your own unique top 10 list. And as as Tack would say, you put some butter on it, you stick it in the oven, you put on some Barry White. That's all.
Are
I
you
got.
going
I
to
can't
make
do
love
Attack.
to your list?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
I think you launch it into space, wait for it to land on the floating dock.
Yes. They actually land on, believe it or not, SpaceX lands now. They have the barge in the ocean, but they land them here on the land as well out at the Air Force Station. And when those puppies land, it is loud. It's that sonic boom we were talking about. We might hear one in the middle of your episode tonight. Not a sonic boom, but a launch. This one isn't going to have a landing tonight. So if you hear us all kind of, going, ooh, what's that? And looking around on the camera, then you'll know why. Hence, no Tack. But this is the point in the show, Matthew, where we turn it over to you, and this is your show for the rest of the show.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. So this is the top 10 reasons we don't like Tack.
Yes.
So I mentioned that Andrew's list actually inspired me, and the reason why was because in her list, she was playing clips from all these really old infomercials. And so I thought to myself, well, I'm a podcast producer. I can definitely bring it. So why don't I do something that can bring some audio? So I actually got a little nervous because we were supposed to do this a while ago, and then things got delayed. And so I've been watching all the new lists, making sure nobody stole this one. And it was weird because Facebook kept popping up different stories that were related to my top 10 list. I was like, no. So what I have is top 10. These are unplanned or unscripted classic movie scene moments.
Yes.
So these are things that you see in like the montage reels before the award shows. These are the things that have been quoted for years and decades and however long we've been watching movies, cult classic TV movie moments that everybody loves. And apparently they were not how they were originally written or intended, whether it was a director's decision that day or somebody just did something right there on set. So these are the moments that we've all, come to know as classic moments that just didn't go as originally planned, but have now become, iconic. And
I know our guy, Chris Crespo, will be listening to this one from last week.
I've already got one of my favorite scenes like this, and I'll be quiet because it's probably on the list, but
yeah, we will.
if not, I'll bring an honorable mention.
I imagine it is. So I will I made this my 10 in no particular order, but these are of all the ones that I saw that were out there, these were 10 that were my favorite. I did steal this a little bit from Cracked, a little bit from The Looper, some other places. And there are a bunch of bonuses within some of the 10. So the twist is, here's one. Oh, but there's two more as well. So we'll have some fun there. So let's get started. And here we go with number 10.
Number
Yes.
10.
So this is a little small moment, but also probably one of the most iconic moments in any of his movies. And Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. You might remember Michael Madsen was doing a little dancing after, mutilating someone.
Was that as good for you as it was for me? Hey, what's going on? You hear that?
So apparently that moment was completely unscripted. And Michael Madsen just sort of made up that whole scene where he grabs the guy's ear and he goes, hello, can you hear me? Huh?
Really?
Just had some fun with it and just off the cuff. Brutal scene, but it was just totally made up off the cuff.
I loved Reservoir Dogs. That was such a good movie.
Listening to that clip without the video, just the sound, I didn't realize how much it sounded like someone being sodomized.
And it only took one for things to turn to rape on the show.
Yep. It's world record time for me, folks. I'll be here all week.
But yeah, I mean, that movie is what, now 1992, so we're talking almost 25 years old. And it was just a classic scene of him dancing around and messing with the guy and just made up that whole thing. Hey, hello, you hear that?
I absolutely love Quentin Tarantino movies. Love them. Absolutely love them. But it seems like he's kind of tapering off in the number of movies that he's releasing or producing or directing, whatever the hell he's doing with them.
He's already said he's retired, I believe.
Oh, is that what? But that could be why. Yeah.
I believe Jay is correct. I think he has stopped. And didn't he's mentioned he got engaged or something like that recently?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know about the personal stuff. With being engaged. But yeah, I do know what was it? Hateful Eight?
Hateful Eight, yeah.
Yeah, that's been a passion project of his for a long time, and he was trying to get it made. And once he finally got it made, he said he was done. Like,
really?
He had announced a while ago he wanted to do a certain number of movies. I believe it was 10, and then he was going to retire.
Huh. Okay.
Whether or not he stays retired is yet to be seen. But yeah, that's officially at the moment he is retired.
It's all about that money, man. If he needs it, that's what he's going to do. That's his passion.
I don't even know if with him it was about the money. I mean, he was just such an artist. Like, he really, every one of these stories he cared about, and he had, full control over everything. And when, people tried to tell him how to do things, he's like, I'm doing it my way or I'm not doing it at all. Like, I'm not even sure if it really was about the money.
I loved his cameos, and I think it was in every one of his movies he had a cameo somewhere, didn't he? Even as far back as Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, he was Mr. Pink?
No,
that was
Mr. Pink was the one that got shot. Wasn't it?
Oh, right. Roth.
Tim Roth.
Oh, why? Eli Roth.
No,
Eli
Tim
Roth?
Roth. It was Tim Roth.
Tim Roth?
Eli Roth was the bear Jew in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
By the way, what a hell of a find in Inglourious Bastards. Who was the guy that played the German leader soldier?
Oh,
Christopher Waltz?
Christopher Waltz, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
fucking
my God,
amazing actor. Anything that guy watches, he was in Hateful Eight too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he does a lot of work with Tarantino.
Yeah, I'll watch anything he does. I love him as an actor. He's got an amazing character that he can portray.
He is an amazing villain. He was also in one of the Bond films and just perfect for the role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just sinister with a smile on his face. All right, so let's take us to number 9.
Nueve.
Number 9.
So this is probably one of the most iconic lines in all of movie making.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm sure we all know where that is from. Oh, there you go. It was from Jaws. But apparently that wasn't part of the script. Apparently they were just sort of messing around with the lines in between takes, and somebody just said, what if you said something like, you're going to need a bigger boat? It's like, okay. And that's what they wound up doing. And now it became one of those lines that's always referenced when you talk about movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. The Jaws, I couldn't believe the Jaws. If you ever saw the set of Jaws, any like the documentaries behind that movie, the goddamn shark, the major part of the shark that you see in the water, like especially towards the end of the movie when he's kind of out of the water and before I guess we don't have to worry about spoiling a movie.
If you haven't seen Jaws now,
yeah.
If you haven't seen it by now, it's worth spoiling.
Yeah. Well, the front half of that shark's body, what you would basically call the bow of the boat in this situation, was run by like 4 people. It was this crazy animatronic puppet that these guys would run from underwater. This thing was enormous.
It wasn't real?
Oh, am I ruining the smoke and mirrors for Andrew?
Yes, no. It was totally real. Santa brought him presents, and the Tooth Fairy gave him $1 million for all his shark teeth.
Well, he's living at Universal Studios now, right?
Well, they shut Jaws down at Universal.
He left? He retired from that too?
Yeah, they didn't put him to sleep.
Man.
No, he just left.
He
This
ate
poor
too many
shark
tourists.
works it.
Well, there's certain tourists that we don't mind him eating at Universal Studios.
I can't imagine why you would say that.
I think they switched to the Jaws ride at Universal with something maybe along the lines of the new Pandora.
The last time I went to Universal Studios, Jaws, Back to the Future, and the old King Kong ride were still there.
Those are gone too?
Yes.
Aw.
Back to the Future is
Not
now
Back
The
to
Simpsons.
Future.
What?
Yeah.
Back to the Future is now The Simpsons?
Yeah. The Simpsons ride used to be the Back to the Future ride.
I didn't even know there was a Simpsons ride now there.
So so we all live in the Orlando area. No one's been to Universal Orlando
in like 12
in at
years.
least the last 12 years.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I've been
This
to
is what happens when you live in Mickey's septic tank, folks.
Well, and going back to that crazy animatronic, totally fake Jaws, still scarier than the stupid CGI ones from like Deep Blue Sea or any of those other newer shark movies.
I actually heard
valid
recently
point.
that
Sharknado?
recently I heard
Well, Sharknado's scary.
there's actually a sequel in production or in pre-production for Deep Blue Sea 2.
That was just a terrible movie.
It was. And someone thinks that they can do it better. We can make it bigger. We can make it stronger. We can get LL Cool J to do it again.
Again, spoiler alert, but the Samuel L. Jackson, when he gets It was just the worst scene of the movie. It was terrible.
Yeah, how can you eat Samuel L. Jackson unless the second one is Samuel L. Jackson comes back in the form of a shark that
I'm a
is
shark,
mutated.
motherfucker. They thought I was dead, motherfucker.
Today was the last day for the Jaws ride at Universal Studios in Orlando. Blah, 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 blah. It was January 2nd, 2012. No
Wow.
longer there. Yep. It's been a while. This is what this area will become part, or is now part, of the wizarding world of Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, it's been around for a little while now.
The Diagon Alley.
Universal, we're going to need a bigger ride. That's what they said.
Appealing to the masses.
Oh, man, they could
That is funny.
totally put that outside, like on the marquee, just as like a little tribute.
Yeah, that's not a bad point.
You know what? Universal, hire me. Hire us. We're a collective marketing team. We don't know what we're doing.
We do have a couple of Universal Studio employees. Granted, they might be like salespeople at the front counters for tickets or something, but they listen to our show. They told us they listen when they're at work.
They
Make
should
this
get
happen,
us some
folks.
tickets so we can ride the new rides.
Hell yeah. See, we don't even know Jaws isn't there anymore.
You know, one thing I learned when I was in Orlando, I must have been there 5 or 6 years ago. I think Jaws was still around. We were staying at a Disney park in one of the Disney hotels, and we wanted to figure out how to get to Universal for one day. And I went down to the lobby and I asked the concierge, like, is there a shuttle or anything that gets to Universal? They wouldn't even acknowledge that Universal existed. They couldn't even answer no to the question, because saying no to the question admits that there's a question worth answering. Like, they just can't acknowledge it's there.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
It's a fucking cult over there, man. That's what.
Well,
that is.
Disney staff, they're referred to as cast members. And yeah, they are expected to play a role, and that is part of that, which is why when I had my illustrious hotel career, I refused to work for the mouse.
There is no world outside of Walt Disney World Resort. The world ends there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And that is how they treated it. Scary.
Did you come down? Of course, you said 5 or 6 years ago. This might not have been a thing then, but Orlando has a Podfest about once a year now that we're going to probably go to this year.
I was there this past February. Great event. I'm sorry you guys couldn't have been there, because that was a fantastic event. Not only is it a great podcasting conference, like tons of great people. You're going to meet a bunch of cool people. You're going to learn a bunch of great stuff. But this past year, they also premiered their podcast documentary, The Messengers, which if you haven't watched the trailer for it, I encourage you to go do that. And get ready, because it's going to hit iTunes pretty soon. Everybody should be buying this. If you're a podcaster, if you're thinking about podcasting, if you want to tell your friends how to listen to podcasts, tell them to watch this documentary. It will change their view on it. It's The Messengers, a podcast documentary.
Chris
Definitely worth it.
Kremistos.
Chris Kremitsos. Yep.
Kremistos, yes. Yeah, he's another one of those Facebook groups. I'm part of one of his organizations as well. Talked to him a few times. Cool, really cool dude. Super busy guy though, man.
Yeah. Really good guy. Really good. And I mean, you guys aren't. How far is Tampa? Well, no, you're all the way on the other side of the coast. So Tampa's too far to be
Tampa's
part
like
of
2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Depends on who's driving.
Yeah.
Well, so if you can go to one of the Florida Podcasters Association meetings as well, that's just one of the best podcast communities, meetups that I've heard about nationwide.
Definitely.
All right, let's get back to classic movie scenes that shouldn't have happened. And this is definitely one that shouldn't have happened. So this is number 8.
Number 8.
By the way, I love the week that Jay wasn't here and whoever it was just kept saying Ocho to everything.
That's
been my.
That was Ray.
That was Ray. Yeah.
Ray Burrito.
Yeah.
Every time I email with Adam or when I tweeted about the show, I just hashtag Ocho.
You know what? Now I know where that came from. I did not know it. I kept seeing it at the end of your emails. I'm like, Ocho. Okay.
Ocho Cinco's over here thinking
Now
he's
I
got a
get it.
career revival.
It's that or a reference to dodgeball. So it's one of the two.
ESPN, the Ocho.
ESPN 8, the Ocho, yes.
All right, so this is another one. This is a scene from a movie that it was totally not supposed to happen, but became like a pinnacle of the movie.
Hey, Malkovich, be fast!
So I don't know if you could hear that one. It was a little bit tougher, but that is a scene from Being John Malkovich. So I don't know if everybody saw the movie, but John Malkovich, playing himself, and John Cusack and his wife are able to enter this little portal and get into his head. And so John Malkovich goes into his own head and comes back and lands on the side of the Jersey Turnpike. And as he's walking, and you see the scene in the trailer, he's walking and some guy driving by screams, "Hey, Malkovich," and throws a can and hits him square in the head. Just pops him. You're like, oh, wow, that's a pretty cool trick. Turns out the whole thing was just drunken debauchery.
Really?
Yeah. So a couple of the extras sneaked some beers onto the set. They got, heavily plastered. And they were just supposed to be driving by him just to make it look like he's walking down the side of this highway. Well, this one guy, he got a little, little excited. He yells out, "Hey, Malkovich, think fast," and lobs the beer can and just nails him right in the head.
Oh my
And
God.
they kept it.
They said the reaction was so great, and the director said he loved it so much that he just had to use it. And not only did they keep it in the movie, but like if you remember and go back and watch the trailers, it was in almost every trailer. That scene was being shown.
If they would have scripted that, how many times would they have to do that take?
Right?
They probably never would get it perfect.
It'd be difficult. That takes some coordination, especially when you're that drunk.
Absolutely. I'm still not sure how he was able to make that shot. Interestingly, though, so I don't know if any of you have ever been an extra on a movie set or anything like that. I actually did it for a summer. It's kind of, it could be fun. It could be long and boring, but it could be kind of fun. You don't get paid a lot, maybe $70, $80 a day, maybe.
That's about right.
It turns out, though, because of this guy being such a drunken dick, that because he had a speaking line in the movie now, his pay got bumped up to $700, and he was eligible to get a Screen Actors Guild card.
Yeah, I was about to say, he spoke on a major film. That's a SAG credit now. He went from a contracted $70 and a grilled cheese sandwich to a SAG credit.
That guy sitting there saying, "That's the best fucking beer can I ever had."
Moral of the story, kids: get drunk and go to work.
Yep.
Always
Big
throw.
things happen.
Always throw those beer cans.
Especially if you're a doctor, teacher, never mind.
Podcaster,
I know plenty of podcasters that get drunk and show up to work. In fact, I saw one. There was this really great table. I was doing a show a long time ago. Somebody built this awesome table that could fill the beer glass from the bottom. So you would snap the mug into it and the beer would sort of shoot in from the bottom of the glass. And they built that as part of their studio table. I'll have to see if I can go back and find the video or the picture of it.
It was like some sort of special glass with a hole in the bottom of it, I would expect.
Yeah, exactly. Something to dispense the beer from the bottom. It was really neat.
That's pretty neat. I want a kegerator, man. I want to get another kegerator. Andrea, can I have one?
Sure.
Sweet. You heard it.
You
I've got
can
it
leave
recorded.
it outside, though.
I've got what? Maybe garage.
You can leave it at Jay's house.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Jay says there's
I'll
nothing
let you get
wrong.
two. You can leave one at Tag's house, too.
Oh, man. All right.
Everywhere but there.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, I've got a pool table. I'm happy with that.
If you get me a baby, then I'll let you have one.
Ooh, baby.
Well, if you really want him to give you a baby, you should let him have a kegerator in the house.
Yeah.
It's hard to
good
pull out
point.
when you're plastered.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He gets one after. That's his reward.
Hmm.
All right.
So on with the list.
All right, in that case, let's move to number 7.
Number
Siete.
7.
Ah.
All right, so this is another infamous scene from a movie that I'm sure we've all seen.
Number 3, step forward.
That's Benicio del Toro.
How many keys, you cocksucker?
In English, please.
Excuse me.
In English.
How many fucking keys, you cocksucker? What the fuck?
Number 4, step forward.
It was bullshit.
So that was The Usual Suspects, the famous lineup scene where you have Gabriel Byrne, Kevin Spacey, Kevin Pollak, Benicio del Toro, and one of the Baldwin brothers, the one that doesn't matter, all lined up. And yeah, well, Alec, a little bit.
Alec is a sweetheart in America.
Most of the time.
Steven can die and nobody would notice.
Steven just does those late night top 10 lists actually on one of the comedy channels, doesn't he? Son of a bitch.
I don't know. Nobody knows. That's the point.
Are we the Stephen Baldwin of podcasts?
No, because we share.
I don't know. We actually know what we're doing. I have no idea if that's actually Steve Baldwin.
We know what we're doing.
Matthew, you're going to hate this. I've never seen The Usual Suspects.
I don't think I have either. Now I want to.
Jay
usually destroys me about because I don't know
Kaiser
these
Sose
movies.
is my spirit animal.
Okay,
So, yes.
thank God. All right, I won't spoil this one because I actually want you to go and watch the movie, and it is spoilable. So go ahead and watch the movie. This scene is early on. It's not missing anything, but there's this great lineup scene where these guys are, doing the police lineup. They're told to read a line that supposedly the witness heard them say, and the whole time they're just laughing. And originally the scene wasn't scripted for that. It was supposed to be a very serious scene. They were supposed to be annoyed because they're all gangsters and they're sitting there in front of the cops. It turns out Benicio del Toro was farting the entire time. And other actors couldn't keep a straight face.
Yes.
He just kept stinking up the place.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Benicio del Toro. I've heard so many good things about that movie. That makes me want to watch it even more now. I'll tell you what, Andrea and I will watch it. We'll for sure watch it before this episode drops. How about that?
All right, go watch it tonight. And also keep in mind, a little bonus to this, apparently most of his lines are ad-libbed. So most of what you hear out of Benicio del Toro throughout the movie is just him making it up on the spot, which is kind of cool.
Now, was that built in that way? Like the movie Step Brothers, it was just silly and stupid, but it was done the same way. It was very, very improv movies. They set the scenes and then let the actors basically do what they wanted. Is that what they did with his lines in this movie as well?
No, apparently the character was written a little bit differently, and he just decided that he should be the character that he portrays. And he started doing it, and they just sort of let him roll with it. And it works out so perfectly.
Well, that makes sense.
But yeah, if you haven't seen, this is for everybody listening, if you haven't seen The Usual Suspects, it's an American classic. And other than him farting in the beginning of the movie, it's a fantastic watch. It's a must-see.
It's a really, really good way to see the beginnings of President Frank Underwood, I believe.
Yes.
Another reference that you two absolutely do not get, do you, Adam?
Neither one of us. We're staring blankly. Jay, you should know better, though, because we're not big movie aficionados.
I know. I heard a couple of the other lists that were done recently about movies, and I'm hearing Adam going, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one either.
All right, look, you give me a sci-fi, and I've seen just about all of them, I'm sure.
I know. You have seen some really obscure, weird stuff.
Yeah, we just watched Alien Covenant, man. Oh, if you like Prometheus, and I'm a big fan of it, I fell in love with Alien Covenant. But most people don't like it.
All right.
I'm not sure if I should go on. There's a lot of movies on here that you probably haven't seen. This might all be a waste.
No, not necessarily.
Well, thank God. At least I know Jay has seen all these. So at least Jay and I.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is just going to be you and I permanently scowling for the rest of the list.
I'm sure Tack wishes he was here because I'm sure he had seen all these too. He's probably screaming into his radio listening to this like, what do you mean you haven't seen Usual Suspects? Oh. All right. Let's go to number 6.
Number 6.
He sounds so dejected. Come on, Matthew.
There's a lot of trepidation going forward on this list right now.
I guess so.
All right. See, rescue this. Tell me you've seen The Dark Knight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
The Batman movie, the second one with the Joker?
I think so. Was it in the 90s?
Go on.
So no audio for this one. This is entirely a visual scene, but apparently that infamous scene where Heath Ledger is, as the Joker, blowing up the hospital. You notice in the movie he clicks the button and then he sort of looks around. There's a little bit of a delay. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. Then he clicks the button again. All of a sudden it explodes.
Yeah.
And he seems sort of get startled. Well, that'll happen by accident. The detonation was supposed to go off on the first click, but it didn't. Something happened with the wiring, something happened with the trigger, and so it didn't go off. But luckily, Heath Ledger stayed in character and just sort of played it off like, why isn't it working? And then when it did go off, he gave that great reaction. It was great because they could only do it once. They only had the money to blow up this hospital one time, and it was a huge thing. So
let me get this straight. The clicker that he was holding was actually the radio transmitter for the real detonation equipment, or was that just a timing issue? Maybe the grip that was supposed to be pushing the button offset
got drunk after throwing a can at John Malkovich.
Whether or not it was the grip's fault or not isn't unclear, but it was supposed to go off on that initial click. And I think everybody was sort of like, hello?
Yeah.
Based on one thing that I had read, and I didn't save this in my notes, but based on one thing I read, I think the actual detonator just had a weird delay to it. And so luckily, everybody just kept rolling, because otherwise they might have been able to cut, boom, and then completely lost the shot. But that's not the only one, though. So there's 2 other ones. Apparently, also another scene in that movie where Heath Ledger is just sitting there in the jail cell, and they're all patting Commissioner Gordon on the back, and he just starts doing the slow applause.
Yeah.
Totally improv, which another one of those, iconic scenes of him that he just decided, hey, this is the appropriate thing to do right now. And, it sort of helps to play up the character and how crazy he is. And as a double bonus, the first time you see Michael Caine, who plays Alfred in the movie, sees the Joker, he's actually supposed to say something. But it was the first time Michael Caine, the actor, had seen Heath Ledger in the full makeup. And so he was just scared shitless. He was so shocked and stunned, he completely forgot his lines. And the director's like, yeah, that works. Let's go with it.
No shit.
Yeah.
So he was like legitimately starstruck?
Yeah, that's what. No, not starstruck. He was stunned. He had never seen Heath Ledger in the Joker makeup before.
Okay.
And then with the introduction, with like the way he came into the room and everything going on, Michael Caine was just totally fucking floored. So when it came up to his line, he was just like, he was like, fuck.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it worked. I mean, that's exactly what your response should have been to this deranged character.
That is awesome. I get starstruck every time Andrea walks into the bedroom.
Aww.
You're trying to get a kegerator, aren't you?
You're goddamn right I am.
That's the only thing you're trying to do here.
I guess you could keep it in the bedroom.
Oh, hang on now. We're going to start podcasting from the bedroom. Jay, it's going to get a little uncomfortable next week.
Son of a bitch.
We have a
It's not
California
uncomfortable
king
yet.
bed. We'll all fit. It'll be so cozy.
It'll make our Skype guests, more, what's the intimate?
Number 6, the downward dog.
And with the visual assist from Andrea. What? No, that's not. By the way, I see a stormtrooper or a AT-AT in the background.
December.
Did you really almost call that a stormtrooper?
Well,
He did.
You did know it was
I know it
July.
was AT-AT though.
Well, but he knows he's one of the characters from The Usual Suspects. It's funny, that calendar, obviously it's December, which it clearly is not. I was doing another podcast a few months ago. I was like, oh, this wall's kind of bare. We just moved into the house. Like, I need something up there. And that was the best looking month that I could find to put behind me.
Hell yeah.
You should just tell people, no, it's December. What are you talking about? I know it's December.
Right? I'm freezing.
just freak them out.
Tomorrow's Christmas, right?
In New Jersey, it's December. You know, they have time difference. It's month difference between states.
Yeah. Chris Christie said it's December. It's December. Yeah. Go fuck your mother.
So we're going to take a quick break in studio, listen to a little bit of DJ Gil Lugo. All right, we'll be right back in studio.
Hey, Tech, you ever have that conversation with your girl about where to eat dinner and it always turns into that back and forth? I don't know, you pick.
Yeah, every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got an answer for you next time that comes up.
Oh, yeah? Where at?
The Salty Fox in Melbourne off of Old Galley Boulevard.
Oh, nice. You know, I've actually been there, and the food was pretty awesome.
Hell yeah, it was. They offer a great selection of paninis, shareable appetizers, soups and salads, and one of the best desserts I've ever had, the Funky Monkey.
Oh, yeah, my favorite was the vintage options. They got this meal called ramen noodle on crack. You just got to try it out.
Done. That's definitely what I'm getting next time.
Put the fun between your legs at the Salty Fox every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. with the Old Galley Arts District Bike Crawl.
It's a 4-mile bicycle ride down Pineapple Avenue with stops for food and beer all along the route. Be sure to visit the Salty Fox every Sunday for brunch from 11 to 4.
Hey, isn't that the $10 bottomless mimosas brunch?
Sure is. Enjoy your brunch while the Salty Fox's DJ spins throwbacks and top 40 hits.
Salty Fox is located in the downtown Old Galley Art District on Old Galley Boulevard.
Check them out on Facebook at facebook.com/saltyfoxmelbourne or online at thesaltyfox.net.
Hey listeners, be sure to mention you heard about the Salty Fox on our show and you'll get 10% off your meals.
Village Idiot Pub. You locals know about it. You guys from out of town have to check them out.
Village Idiot Pub is now a proud sponsor with Living Podcariously and the Twisted 10 podcasts.
It's more than just about commercials, though. The cast here will be taking our show on the road to Village Idiot to record some episodes as well as hold events. They have over 30 beers on tap, including ciders and Hefeweizen, my favorite, as well as hundreds of bottle choices.
Adam, you forgot my favorite, all the delicious wine. So get your friends together and enjoy the board games, puzzles, and the giant Jenga.
Let the owner, Jason, as well as the rest of the staff there, take excellent care of your beer drinking needs.
Mention either one of our shows to the staff and get 10% off your tab.
Tuesday is open mic, Wednesday is trivia, Thursday is karaoke, Friday and Saturday night are live music.
Visit them at 4 Harrison Street, Suite 103, Cocoa, Florida, or Village Idiot Pub on Facebook. And don't forget, they are a dog-friendly location, so bring your friends, family, and fur babies.
like sci-fi, AI, and technology? Do you enjoy going on tangents and down random rabbit holes of a subject? Then join me and my friends each week on Brokebot Mountain as some artificially intelligent people attempt to walk through a maze that explores themes of existence and free thought in sci-fi TV, movies, and books. The conversations are unique and bring an unusual perspective to the genre and can literally go anywhere. And we do mean anywhere. You can find us at blazingcariboustudios.com or look for Brokebot Mountain on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, it's Adam. If you enjoy the hosts or the content of the Twisted 10, be sure to check out our other show. It's called Living Podcariously. While the Twisted 10 may get crass and explicit occasionally, it holds no water to Living Podcariously. We do get a little bit more rough and raw on that show. We have a lot of fun producing it and have had some awesome guests. And as always, thanks for listening. Welcome back to the Twisted 10, this week with Mathew Passy as our guest host. Again, thank you, Mathew, for doing this. This is a really fun show, and it's giving me more inspirations of things to go that I have to obviously go watch. Well, one so far.
This was going to be a lot of fun, but now I'm just getting depressed at how few great movies you've seen. So,
you know, that's what happens when guests come in and do movie-themed podcasts. It's just like, I thought this was going to be great. You guys made this deplorable and horrifying.
Look, if anybody came in and did things about Dumb and Dumber, The Fifth Element...
You're not helping. You're not helping. Yeah. I know you think you're helping. You're not helping.
Wait a minute. I do love The Fifth Element, though. That is
The Fifth Element.
I love that movie.
Fantastic movie.
Labyrinth.
It was before its time. Labyrinth was good, too.
Labyrinth or Pan's Labyrinth?
Labyrinth.
Oh, boy.
Yes, Labyrinth I like, too.
Labyrinth was the one with Billy...
David Bowie.
David Bowie. That was close. Billy Idol, yeah. David Bowie, same guy, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Nope.
Exactly.
Nope.
All right. Hey,
one's not rolling over in his grave hearing that at all.
Both of them.
Can you recap 10 through 6 for us, please?
Sure. So these are the top 10 unplanned, unscripted moments, classic movie scenes, things that happen that we all see and talk about, unless you're Adam and Andrea, and that were not planned by the original writer and director. So number 10 was in Reservoir Dogs, where Michael Madsen starts talking to the ear of the cop that he so eloquently cut off. Number 9, the famous line from Jaws, "We're going to need a bigger boat." Number 8, in Being John Malkovich, where Malkovich takes one in the head from a drunken extra. Number 7, The Usual Suspects and Benicio del Toro's excess flatulence. Number 6 was a lot of what Heath Ledger apparently did in The Dark Knight, most notably when the hospital gets blown up.
Yes. And Jay, I've only not seen one of those. Only one, The Usual Suspects. That's the only one I haven't seen.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
It is a big one.
That's like saying I don't like The Godfather. Which I don't. I'm not a big fan of The Godfather. I mean, I think it just was a different time for me, I guess.
Well, this is now just the top 9 list.
Yeah. Just kidding. I liked it all but the third one. To be honest, I did not like all of them except the third one. The third one was just shit.
Yeah, no, that's actually the consensus. The third one was garbage.
Oh.
That's the correct thing to say.
You're actually right on that.
All right. I redeemed myself a little.
All right. Well, I'm still going to go back into order as I have it listed. Not that these are in any particular order, but just to keep my notes straight. So let's go to number 5.
Cinco.
So this is an older movie, and it's possible that most people haven't seen this movie just because of how old it is, but no doubt you have heard this line.
They gotta have some kind of middleman. And that's where old Daniel comes in, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm walking here! I'm walking here! Up yours, you son of a bitch! You don't talk me that way! Get out of here!
Yes.
So everybody knows that is the famous scene in Midnight Cowboy, and Jon Voight is walking across the street with Dustin Hoffman, and they're having a casual conversation, and all of a sudden, a cab almost nails him. Dustin Hoffman slams the hood of the car and yells, "I'm walking here!" It turns out he was just walking there. That for filming of this movie, which was done back in the 70s, they didn't get the permits to shut down traffic. So they literally just filmed the scene with these guys walking across New York City traffic, and sure enough, he almost got hit by a car.
Holy shit!
There is a more recent movie where something like that actually happened. Is that up on your list? Because you'd know what I was talking about if it was.
I don't believe I have it.
Okay, so on 40-Year-Old Virgin, there's that scene where Steve Carell is walking. He's storming at this point because his friends have made fun of him for not being able to talk to a woman. So he storms out of the electronics store, marches across the street to ask out the lady working at the eBay store. Well, that one scene where he almost got hit by a car, he almost got hit by a car. That car had actually evaded the barricades and was just driving and almost hit Steve Carell as he was crossing the street.
Shit.
Yeah.
Wow, we almost lost a national treasure.
Yep. Yeah, Dustin Hoffman would have been a great loss.
You know my favorite quote out of that. You know my favorite quote out of that movie, 40-Year-Old Virgin. I hope you get a big trunk because I'm gonna stick my bike in it. And the girl goes, "Yeah," not really knowing what he's saying because she thinks it's her butt. Jay, you know? No.
Yeah. No. That's
Okay, but I've seen that movie, and I love Dustin Hoffman, by the way.
So back to so apparently the whole thing happened by accident. Apparently it became such an iconic scene because it really helped to define the New York City tone of that movie. Because that's how it is up there. You know, people just walk and cars don't care. Neither do pedestrians.
Who remembers Dustin Hoffman being a badass like that? I mean,
true.
You watch him now. I love Dustin Hoffman. I love everything he's done, but he's a little bit of a pushover lately in some of the roles he's done.
I don't know. He was a badass in Hook.
Yeah, that's because he was Captain Hook.
It is funny that this movie makes it look like he's going to go down the tough guy route, like the Pacinos,
right.
I'm blanking on all the tough guys right now.
He's like watching that. I wish if you would have cast him in Dudley Moore's character in like Father Like Son, I'd totally buy it. Because I have that image of him instead of that. I'm walking it. Like, I don't see that. I don't see Dustin Hoffman doing that.
This
at
is
all.
the third podcast we've sat together when we've brought up the name Dudley Moore. Do you realize that now?
Dudley Moore has never received such fame and attention. Not since his co-starring role alongside Kirk Cameron in that classic film, Like Father Like Son.
Like Father Like Son, yeah.
Andrew's next list, top 10 Dudley Moore movies.
Good luck to you. I don't know that there's 10.
That's the twist.
Oh. All right, let's go on to number 4.
Number 4.
Cuatro.
So for number 4, we are going to go to The Godfather, the original one.
El Padrino.
So one of the most famous scenes in the movie is obviously Marlon Brando at the wedding, and everybody's coming to talk to him on the day of his daughter's wedding. Well, Luca Brasi is one of those famous scenes, this big thug guy who's coming to pay his respects, and apparently he was super intimidated by Marlon Brando. And so that whole stuttering and the nervousness was actually legitimate.
Don Corleone, I am honored and grateful that you have invited me to your daughter's wedding. On the day of your daughter's wedding.
So apparently you could see the actor would spend a lot of time practicing his lines, stumbling over them, a lot of nervous energy going on. And they realized that this would actually make for the scene, that if you have this big, huge, intimidating guy who even he was, sort of in awe by The Godfather, by Marlon Brando. So they sort of played it up. They sort of hammed it up and it wasn't meant to be like that, but it worked out even better that way.
Of course, if any of us were sitting in front of him as well, we would be speaking exactly the same way, stuttering over words, having that same level of intimidation. That's awesome. That's cool that translated through.
I think I'd be asking him to stop looking at my dick.
As a bonus, another thing in that scene that is quite iconic and that we've sort of known, for a lot of different places, the cat. The cat was never part of the production. Apparently, they just found that cat roaming around, and Marlon Brando decided to pick him up and sit there with it, and it became another, piece of iconic movie history.
What's an evil villain without a cat? Mr. Bigglesworth. I mean,
Fraggle Rock had that villain that had a cat too, right?
Hold on, wait. What was that show?
Fraggle Rock. Oh,
all right, we're good.
That guy had a cat. You're right. I think you're right.
Gargamel had a cat.
Yeah,
Gargamel had a cat.
Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget had a cat.
Gadget.
out.
Wait, so did Dr. Evil?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I
Dr.
said,
Evil.
Mr. Bigglesworth.
Oh, that's Mr. Bigglesworth.
That's
okay.
Mr. Bigglesworth. Come, Mr. Bigglesworth. Yes.
And actually, I see Andrea holding a cat, so she's the evil villain tonight.
Definitely the villainess of this house.
But I also
for sure.
have a schnoodle, so it evens me out.
That totally.
I am a
does even out. You're
Pisces, so.
absolutely right.
It's like having a Mog instead of having her own best friend. She's her own worst enemy.
Nice.
Oh, good play. All right, let's move along to number 3.
Number
Three.
three.
So I don't have any audio for this, but this is from another classic movie. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first of the Indiana Jones movie.
I think I already know which one this is. This is the one I was going to bring up.
Oh, okay, good. So in Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's a scene where Marion is getting kidnapped, and Dr. Jones, or Indy, or Junior, depending on who you are and how you refer to him, is chasing after, and he's going through the crowds, and he can't find her, and all of a sudden he runs into this big dude carrying this huge sword, and the crowd disperses, and all of a sudden this guy does this, showing off the sword, and Indy just pulls out a gun and shoots him. And it's a hilarious moment in the movie. Apparently, though, what was scripted was an actual sword fight. Harrison Ford was supposed to engage this guy, and it was supposed to be another action scene. But it turns out he had food poisoning and just didn't have the energy to do the scene. So they talked it over. He's like, just do that, and boom. It's
No
iconic
shit.
Indiana
That's my
Jones.
favorite scene in the whole movie. Yeah, that's
I love
absolutely
it.
100%. The guy, he comes out with some sort, like Bruce Lee with nunchucks, that kind of like solo showboating type of thing to intimidate. And he's just like, he's not even done doing it. He's still doing it. And he pulls out the gun and bang. It's like just Clint Eastwood's him right out of the desert.
Yeah, that is such a character-defining moment of that movie as well, because it's just, I mean, it really shows you the side of Indy that wants to be that they wanted to portray to us. By the way, that's also a very Han Solo style moment as well. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Well, is that on your list? Is there another Harrison Ford moment on your list?
Oh,
There might be another Harrison
Okay,
Ford
so
moment on
I'll
the list
keep
featuring-
quiet. I'll keep quiet.
Featuring General or Captain Solo, depending on when you're talking to him.
Harrison Ford, just as a sidebar, he is one of my favorite improvisers. When it comes to improvised lines, he has a lot in a lot of his movies, and he is one of my favorite ones to do it because a lot of them do stay in.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a credit to really, really good actors, the ones who become so engrossed in the role that they sort of know the character better than everybody else, and they just sort of feel like, I don't know if the character would have done that. Let's try this, and that becomes the sort of iconic, role-defining move or scene or take or whatever it is. And so a lot of these do sort of just show how some actors are just really, really brilliant and how others are, kind of suck. But so in that vein, let's go to number 2.
Number 2.
And it is featuring another Harrison Ford, General Solo, Captain Solo, the scoundrel of the universe.
I love you.
I know.
Another absolutely infamous line from the Star Wars sagas. Apparently, he was actually supposed to say, I love you too, and be all romantic and whatnot. Meh, that didn't work for him. He just said, I know. And we have movie gold.
Yep.
it's almost as bad as when you tell a girl I love you and she says thank you. It's just so defeating. So defeating of a line.
Well, it's like his idea was that Han Solo is such a narcissist that of course you love me. How would you not?
Yep.
So she's like, I love you. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I hope
Carbonite.
I hope that Han Solo is the one we get in the new spin-off movie that they're working on, the one that they have to reshoot.
I'm excited for it. I think, and I hope that's what we get, because the actor, they had to bring in an acting coach, which is a little disturbing, but he seems to really care about the role and care about the character. And especially with Ron Howard coming in to direct the reshoots and finish filming, because they're actually still, 3 weeks into filming it, or 3 weeks left of filming it, of principal photography. And, he knows George Lucas, knows Harrison Ford from doing American Graffiti with both of them. He's got a really good relationship with Disney and Kathleen Kennedy. So I'm hoping it comes out great. And that's going to be me geeking out for, I'm going to get all sweaty. And I'm going to back away from the microphone.
Matthew, we almost had an interview, a Twisted 10 list, actually, from the guy who played Han Solo in a kind of a short film.
Yeah,
that was put together.
Fan flick, yeah.
It was a fan flick. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I can't for whatever reason. He does the impersonations of Robin Williams that are ridiculously spot on accurate.
Was it Jarrison Gord?
No, that name doesn't sound familiar.
That's because I made it up.
You motherfucker.
You didn't pick that up?
I got trolled. Jarrison. I got it now. I was typing and talking to you at the same, trying to find the. Oh my God,
Jarrison Gord. You know, Adam Gullible actually isn't in the dictionary.
He's smart ass. Hey, Jay, you know how to keep a dumb guy confused?
Well, I'll let you know in a minute, Adam.
Oh, damn it. Jay's too fast. See, look, stand-up comedy on this show, I mean, Jay's background is in that. I can't keep up with some of the shit that he does. They say we sound alike, but Jay's the funny one. That's easy to tell us apart.
Speaking of stand-up comedy, I knew I wanted to bring this up with you guys because you guys are always talking about stand-up comedy, and I know, Jay, you go on the road. Have you guys started watching I'm Dying Up Here yet on Showtime?
I haven't. No, I need to.
My wife and I just finished the first 2 episodes. It's really good.
Yeah, I just finished watching Crashing on HBO, which is kind of the same.
Oh, so good too.
I don't typically, and not to cast aspersions, I don't know him personally. I just don't typically like his work, Pete Holmes. It's very hit or miss with me, but I love that show. And I used to be an open micer in New York. That's kind of where I cut my teeth. So watching him go through that, I'm like, yep, I've been there. Yep, know that club. Yep, know that guy. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I completely understand your feelings on Pete Holmes. It is very like white guy humor, like really white guy humor.
Yeah.
That show was fantastic. So many good comedians making appearances. So many like really good laugh out loud moments. But what you were saying about the whole open mic thing and like trying to get discovered, you need to watch the Showtime show. You're definitely gonna love that.
That. By the way, the guy's name was Jamie Costa. He does the impersonations. YouTube him, you'll see him. He looks just like Robin Williams, but he was cast in that by the Star Wars folks to do that short film for the young version of Han Solo.
You know who I love being in that is Glover.
Yeah, Donnie Glover.
No.
Donnie Glover.
Yes, fantastic. I cannot wait to see him as Lando.
Yeah, he nailed that first shot that came out where he's like he's got that smooth, just the look in his face, the look in his eyes. He's got that smooth debonair. I want to take a Colt 45 from him.
Yes,
or offer one to him. Like, you got a Colt 45, and like, yes, like he totally nailed that look, and I think he's going to do amazing with that character.
Yeah, honestly, when they were saying they had director troubles, I'm like, bring him in, let him direct. I don't care. Let's do it. Come on.
You know what? He probably would be the one to do it.
He's
probably could absolutely direct that.
All right. Well, let's go to the last and certainly not least, number one.
Uno.
Number one.
All right. So this is going to be a little bit of a story, but I'm going to play the audio just to sort of set it up. And one of the most famous scenes in much of motion picture history.
Yes! 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 Oh! 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 Oh, God. Oh,
I'm so happy this is on the list.
I'll have what she's having.
That was a last minute addition, actually. I just changed that today. I was going to go with something else. I decided, no, I got to bring this one in.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love that movie. Go ahead. I'll back away.
No. Well, so this is obviously, if you don't know, it's from When Harry Met Sally. It's the famous scene where Billy Crystal and why am I blanking on her name? Meg Ryan are sitting in the diner, and they're talking about whether or not women can fake orgasms, and she just goes into it, and then cut to the old lady who goes, "I'll have what she's having." Now, that was not how the scene was originally written. In fact, the whole fake orgasm thing wasn't part of the script at all. But they, Billy Crystal, who's funny, and Rob Reiner, they got to talking and they figured, this would be a fun way to sort of play out this part of their relationship. So the best part about it is apparently Meg Ryan struggled with the fake orgasm in the scene. She was a little shy. She couldn't sort of get over it. So Rob Reiner sits across from her and does this whole thing. And, he hams it up and blah, 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 and does the whole thing. Well, the best part about it is that he's not embarrassed by Meg Ryan. He's not embarrassed by Billy Crystal. He's not embarrassed by anybody else in the room except for the extra who says the famous line, "I'll have what she's having," who is Rob Reiner's mother.
Oh, are you serious?
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's a great cameo to get.
Yeah. And again, she just happens to be, "Hey, Mom, come on in. We'll have you, film a scene. It'll be a lot of fun." And she turns out to have one of the most iconic lines in all of filming. "I'll have what she's having."
For sure. I never knew that was his mother, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, apparently that's a well-known one. There was some documentary or something that Billy Crystal did where he talks about that and how much fun and what a great story it was. That must have been a lot of fun to film that movie altogether. But so that's it.
Good list, man.
Yay,
I loved it.
I love this theme train that we've been on for our last few lists because it's stuff about movies that you would never really, think about or look up or hear or whatever. But no, dude, that was fantastic.
I saw When Harry Met Sally. I saw that
Yay! We got one.
I just hear the Ghostbusters scene. We got one.
That's when they all slide down the pole. I don't. Wherever I live for the rest of my life, I want to have a fireman's pole to slide down. I don't know why, but Ghostbusters might.
You don't want a fireman's pole to slide down. You want a stripper pole that stops at the ceiling, and you're gonna hope someone dances on it.
Okay, well that too. That would work. All right, Matthew, how can our listeners find you? By the way, if you ever want to see how to design a logo, go check out Pod to Pod's logo. It is beautiful.
Credit for that one.
Oh really? It looks good.
I know, but it's not mine. The founder made it. I can't take credit for it.
Well, it looks good. So we'll plug Pod to Pod and plug anything you want to have our listeners go support you with or on or merch or anything you want our guys to go do.
All right, so I'm going to give you a couple of big ones here to pay attention to. If you're a podcaster, if you're thinking about podcasting, got to check out pod2pod.com, podtopod.com. News, directory, resources of podcast information. We will help you launch your podcast, improve your podcast, be a better podcaster. Also in that same vein, when it comes out, and it'll be coming out pretty soon, check out The Messengers, a podcast documentary. Some really fantastic work from a bunch of really good podcasters, many of whom are in Florida. So hopefully we'll see some of them on future Dichotomy Media productions. Me personally, I am the podcast consultant, thepodcastconsult.com. If you want to follow me on the social medias, it's just my name, Mathew Passy, 1T, Mathew, Passy. And that's pretty much what you need to know about me.
Yeah, I can't give. So for those, there are several podcasters in Central Florida that listen to our shows, and then we also in turn listen to their shows too, just because we like to have that close bond in our little community of fellow podcasters. But several of them have asked me questions that you and I have talked about Matthew on the side, and I highly encourage you guys, hit Matthew up online, talk to him, chat with him, do a consultation with him, and he can help you grow your shows, especially because most of the questions that I get lately are on how to monetize the show, how to start getting any kind of sponsorship on the show, on their podcasts, because it's easier to sell new sponsors once you already have a sponsor. So you have those like cookie cutter templates or placeholder locations where your ads can go. Matthew can help you work with all of that, as well as the technical side. So I give him my highest level of endorsement for supporting growing your shows. And so hit him up online. All of his information will be in our show notes. So click the show notes. You'll see his links, his contact information, all the businesses that he's part of and references that he's part of. I'll stick all those in there too. Maybe even some that weren't in there. And maybe I'll screenshot that debate that we had back and forth just because we referenced it. And it's a pretty funny read to go back through and reread. This is where Adam admits he's wrong. So this doesn't happen often, guys. But yeah, when I go back and I say I'm wrong, it's well, okay. It
was a fantastic discussion, and it really and part of why I came up was because like 2 days prior, somebody did the same thing, and like they felt like they were attacked. It's like, well, we've got to be fair. If we're going to tell one person not to do it, we got to tell everybody not to do it.
Anthony said the same thing when that conversation came up. He's like, man, I hate telling you that you're wrong, Adam, but because you help so many people in here, but in this case, I kind of think you are. I'm like, all right, let me see the conversation, and sure enough.
But more importantly, like I think the big takeaway from that is like, just don't be a dick, like it's okay to disagree with people. It's okay to not be on the same page. It's okay if somebody does something that's a little different from you. Like interact, be polite, be pleasant, engage. Don't just yell and scream and say, no, this is blah, blah, blah. We had a great discussion. We learned a lot. Like you said, they could have taken the whole thing down, but there was so much that came from it. Besides a 5-star review for your show, that it was worth keeping up there and showing it for everybody. And we've also built a great friendship out of it. So
agreed. I listened to about 5 episodes of yours at that same weekend. I returned.
Sorry.
No, it was good.
Give you back that time.
I returned that favor of a 5-star because your production quality and your entertainment value and everything was spot on. So you've got a good product that you're doing. Obviously, you know that too. So good job on that. But
thank you.
Well, cool. For us, check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/thetwisted10. Shoot us an email to thetwisted10@gmail.com, soon to be at thetwisted10.com. Just registered those domain names this afternoon. Let's see. What else was I going to say? Oh, we have Instagram as well now, so go check out our Instagram. I'm not sure what that is. Tack usually runs that. I think it's just at thetwisted10, but go check us out on Instagram. Just do a search for us on there. And then also, if you enjoy the show and you enjoy the content of the show, yes, our sponsors do pay us a little bit of money for sponsoring our shows and bringing the upgrades to the studio and these new web hosting stuff that we're coming up with. All of these new products that we do certainly is helped pay for by our sponsors, but that's not the only source of income from us. We've got a Patreon set up for the Twisted 10 with right now. Jay, guess how many patrons we've got on the Twisted 10? This is monumental.
How many do we have?
None.
Fantastic. So keep it up, guys. We love the support.
So if you enjoy the show, throw us $1 a month or something on Patreon. That really does help the show more than you guys can imagine, even if it's only $1. So patreon.com, that's patreon.com/thetwisted10. And also we've got one for Living Podcariously. It's /Living Podcariously. All in all, we're making about $9 a month right now. But that's okay. They'll grow eventually. But no, we greatly appreciate, Matthew, you coming on this week. This was a hell of a good show, and hopefully we can send some of our listeners your way and check out some of your content, and then especially those other podcasters that are out there. You guys, you know who you are. I won't call you out by name, but you know who you are that have asked me a ton of questions, and I just kind of draw blanks on some of them. Mathew Passy is your guy to go to for those answers, so he can certainly hook you up with that.
Thank you, and I'll be honest. For one reason, I am sorely disappointed in that. When the feed updates, I won't listen to this week's show because I was already on it and I know what happened. Like, the luster is gone. Like, I am genuinely a fan of the show. I think the concept is brilliant. I think the way your interactions, your chemistry, it's a ton of fun. If somebody's hearing this for the first time, came from my audience, go back and listen to as many of the earlier ones as you can, because it's a great group running the show, and I love it.
We appreciate it.
You get a kegerator too.
Yay!
Jay, where are you going to be for the next couple of weeks for our audience to go find you?
I'm going to be home.
Taking some time off?
Some time off, yeah. I got my son. Summer vacation is upon us, so I've got my son with us. His birthday's coming up. We got a pretty good road trip planned up for it. I won't say it on here in case he listens and breaks every rule I have for him. But you won't see me around until about August 1st. I'm going to be laying low till then.
Oh, very cool.
Jaws ride?
What's that?
Jaws ride?
You're taking him on a Jaws ride?
No, I'm not taking him on the Jaws ride. No, they don't. We don't have a boat big enough.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Well, he's also half Cuban. I feel like taking him on the water would just be slightly racist.
Oh,
that's right, folks. Hi, guys. I'm Dad. These are my jokes. These are dad jokes.
What about your other show?
You can definitely catch me on Pops On, Father's Take on the Entertainment Industry. Along with Raul and Marcel, we'll be releasing the next episode here shortly. Right now, we're only up on YouTube just because we're trying to figure out how we want to distribute. But go to POPS_ON ... Our last episode was Papa's Got a New Pair of Shoes. Check that out and have some fun with us.
Fucking entertaining show. I love them. I'm serious. I want more of them. I want you guys to release more of those. They're good shows. Well, good. Andrea, how can our audience find you?
I'll be at Brent Allen Salon and Day Spa doing hair, nails, facials, whatever you want.
Nice. And in studio for Living Podcariously recording in the background over there, we've got the folks from Oak and Iron Photography.
Hi, guys.
So we'll, if you want more information on that, listen to the Living Podcariously episode that drops this week. Also, I think Jason Estes will be in here tonight. We're going to talk with him a little bit on air about the event that's upcoming. But all right, so we'll wrap it up. Mathew, thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate it. If there's anything that we can do to support you in anything that you're doing, let us know. We can do anything you want. We'll do it.
Yes, go watch The Usual Suspects.
Yes.
Done.
For Christ's sakes.
Excellent. All right. Well, on behalf of the Twisted 10, I'm Adam.
I'm Andrea Joy.
I'm Jay Alvarez.
And to our guest,
I'm Matthew.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Wait. Don't hit stop on the episode just yet. Hey, this is Tack from the podcast you just listened to. And if you enjoy Living Podcariously or The Twisted 10, then you're going to love my new podcast I co-host with my lifelong buddy, Ron Caniff. It's called You're 40, Now What? It's about the trials and tribulations of turning 40 and just getting through life. So check it out on iTunes, Google Play Music, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks. Now go give someone a mouth hug.
To another episode of The Twisted 10. I am Adam. I am not your host this week, and the cat's in tax chair, so he's out tonight. Ironically, Jay, he's at SpaceX, either launching or scrubbing. I don't know, because it's supposed to be going like right now, the next SpaceX rocket.
I think if it's tack, he's probably scrubbing.
Yeah, you're probably there. Good point. But yeah, no tack tonight. Sitting over on the Lady Chase.
Hi, I'm Andrea Joy, and I am not your host.
Oh, Jay.
Yeah, and I'm Jay Alvarez, still constantly making fun of tech for scrubbing launches. Also not hosting.
Uh-oh.
But we have a, it looks like we have a moving picture on the computer screen.
We have a very handsome gentleman up on our screen.
Oh, it's another moving picture show.
In studio. I'd like to introduce him, and I'm going to tell a little story here in just a few minutes before we get into his Twisted 10. However, we've got the host and head of content of Pod to Pod. And, reading, I could literally spend 15 minutes reading your little bio on Facebook because, dude, you've done a ton of stuff.
So wait, Pod to Pod, is this where like a pod person stops, gets into another pod person? Is this like an invasion of the pod people type of thing? Because I would love it if that was the case.
It's a new Elon Musk project.
Yes.
Also, he does social media at the Jewish Federation of Southern New Jersey, from the New Jersey area, Mr. Mathew Passy.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the Twisted 10, and sorry that Tack is not here, but good to be with all of you fine people. I've been a big fan of the show, and I really wanted to be with the whole group of you.
I know. Well,
also,
Tack
no interns this week.
Yeah, no, we don't have any this week.
I've been in plenty of other Facebook groups where it's like, it's really not a great thing to do, trading reviews. Like, you want genuine, real fans to review your show. And sure enough, we have this, very mature, healthy discussion. And you told me about the concept of the show. And I was like, that is actually really a creative concept. I haven't heard of anybody doing that. I'm going to check it out. And I went back to that thread where we had this argument, and I wrote back to her. I was like, God damn it, people. I just had to give a 5-star review and posted a screenshot.
Yes.
And yeah, I really did fall in love with the show right away. What you guys are doing is a lot of fun. It's super creative. I enjoy listening all the time. I'm so glad to be on here, and I really do tell everyone, podcast fans around to check it out. I think it's a great concept.
We appreciate that. We also appreciate you using us as one of your top 3 podcasts in the article that you were interviewed for. I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me right now, but plug that a little bit, because the listeners would be kind of interested to hear that, because it's a good article, number one, but it also has a couple of cool things said about us in there, which is kind of neat.
So just to sort of explain why I do all this stuff in podcasting, Pod to Pod is a go-to resource for all things podcasting. We post a lot of news articles. We've got a directory of resources. I do a podcast on there where I interview, different folks who are offering up services and things that are going to help podcast producers like yourselves. So one of the folks who I did talk to is this guy, Kurt, who started toppodcast.com, which is this platform that helps people come in and easily find the best podcasts out there, all the categories, top 200 from iTunes. He has all these different other features in there to make it so that you can really find new and cool podcasts. And so I got asked to be one of his podfluencers.
Hey guys, it's Adam. I want to take a moment and personally thank you for listening to our shows, for downloading our shows, and for sharing them with your friends. With your guys' support, we just moved the Twisted 10 into the threshold of the top 100 comedy shows in iTunes. It made it to number 99, granted, just barely crept in there. However, that's still monumental for us. Out of the tens of thousands of podcasts that are out there, that's one of the most difficult categories to breach into. Thank you very, very much for helping us to get there. If you haven't already done so, please go give us a 5-star rating and give us a review, a short little 1-line, 2-line review, letting us know that you enjoy the show. iTunes reviews are like podcast currency. It legitifies the show, it allows us to get better guests, and it allows our sponsors to really see that we're reaching the listeners that are out there. if you haven't done so yet, please go do it. We would greatly appreciate it. We've got a ton on the horizon from Dichotomy Media, a lot more on our YouTube channel, more Get Out Penny cartoons, all sorts of stuff. So please help us by giving us that 5-star rating and a little review. Thank you very much and enjoy the show.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to The Twisted 10, bringing you original and unique host-created top 10 lists, recorded live in world-famous Cocoa Beach, Florida, with hosts Tack Van Sickle, Adam Poston, Jay Alvarez, and me, Andrea Joy.
Welcome, views, and this is common in most podcast arenas. And I didn't think that it broke any of the rules. And I talked to Anthony a little bit about it as well, and he didn't either. However, it got a lot of good positive feedback, and then some guy comes in there and he goes, Adam, listen. He goes, it's really cool what you're doing and all, but kind of skirting the rules of what the PDC should be used for. And then I had a couple of my friends that are on there fired back at, and it was Matthew, actually. They fired back at him right away and said, leave him alone. He's just, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But don't come on the thread and be negative. And then I offended Matthew before knowing him. I said, look, he approached it, maturely and positively and argued with
That doesn't sound like me.
This is the down, dirty, bottomless son of a bitch that you were talking about. I remember that.
Wait a minute. What? No, that's not what I said.
No. I remember specifically, I think you referred to him as a C-bomb. I won't say that on our show. Rhymes with bunt. But yeah, hi. Nice to meet you, motherless bastard. I got it now.
He's full of hot air, Matthew. You know that, listening to enough Jay. But anyway, Matthew came in and debated me back and forth a little bit. And believe it or not, I'm a big enough boy to admit when I'm wrong, especially when I've been convinced of it in a good debate. And I changed my stance. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I talked to the leaders of the group. I said, hey, if you guys want me to pull this down, we can, or we can leave this post up kind of as a little lesson learned for other people who are wanting to spam the group, even though that wasn't spam. But so that's how I met Matthew. And then he and I got talking back and forth, and turns out I got a 5-star review out of Matthew anyway.
Yeah.
I win, right? Is that? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was the damnedest thing because I was,
We've got nothing. It's just the 3 of us in studio. And Tack's got this whole, SpaceX thing he's doing. I mean, I guess this podcast doesn't pay the bills for him, so I guess he's got to make his money somehow.
Wait, because SpaceX is owned by Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Is Tack a pod person going pod to pod?
Dun, dun, dun.
What you don't know is Tack is actually on his way to Mars right now.
Damn it.
Is pod to pod like human centipede?
No, but I want it to be now.
Well, we'll get into that in just a minute because, Matthew, we want you to tell our listeners all about that. But here's how Matthew and I met. So this is a cool little story. We're both
how cute.
We're members of the Podcast Discovery Center, plus a couple of other miscellaneous podcast groups that are out there.
PDC.
But Podcast Discovery Center, Anthony Hayes, Scott Doucette, those guys are kind of the leaders of that. And I'm one of their top 50 contributors of helping with content on the PDC. So giving tips and pointers and, just whatever. I don't really spam that group really. With our episodes, I just share information with other hosts. So marketing materials or how to drum up business or how, editing tricks, like some of the little behind the scenes post work that I do in here for our episodes. That's what that group is built for. And it's got like 1,400 members. It's a pretty big Facebook group. Well, I push the limits of the rules of the PDC a little bit with a post. Now, I wasn't spamming, but what I was willing to do with the members of the PDC, with other podcast hosts, was trade reviews. So basically, you listen to our show and give us a 5-star review, and then I'll go on your show, listen to your show, and give you a 5-star review. So basically, just a trading of reviews.